All right, we are live, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, our beautiful country, how we're going to fix this bad boy together. Guys, we have the reasons that the Parliamentarian decided to stick her pointy little Democrat shoe right up our butts today. I've got all that for you. I'm going to walk you through that. I'm going to walk you through what GOA has put out, the reasons included, why that's wrong. I'm also going to show you what the actual bird rule actually says, which also proves why she's wrong. And then I'm going to tell you what the scuttlebutt is from the powers that be in the 2A space that have reached out. And we've had conversations, and I kind of have a rough idea of where it's going to go. So we're going to walk through all of that, and then I'm also going to give you updates and response across the entire spectrum in the same format we did yesterday with kind of a live rolling X feed. So make sure audio video is good. It looks like it's excellent. Sweet. So what we're going to do right now, guys, is we're going to jump in the exact same way we did yesterday. You guys really provided a lot of positive feedback with that, where I'm just going to kind of roll through my X feed with a few things selected for you. And we're just going to have some fun. It might be an hour, might be 2 hours. I have no idea. All right, and special note, my camera's been acting up, so if my camera goes black, my voice will still keep going. It'll come right back on. Just bear with me. All right, we are going to get into this, guys. Let me make this happen real quick. So minimize myself. Make sure you follow me at Braden LOA on X. This is where everything you're about to see is coming from, okay? So as you guys are getting in here, I'm sure you heard that the Parliamentarian decided to kick us right in the balls and say that we couldn't have suppressor removal through the HPA and the Short Act because it wasn't related to budget, even though it's a tax stamp, right? Of course, there's going to be outrage from that from you guys and from myself because that's kind of stupid. But we're going to keep going on that. I'm going to show you a few things over here about what she said, some of the tea leaves that I'm seeing. Let's get into it. Okay, so you guys are fully aware the Parliamentarian basically pissed in our Cheerios this morning. Here's what she told Congress, okay? And I've got texts coming over. You're going to hear those come over, and this is all part of the process of what we're doing live. This is what the Parliamentarian told Congress. Elimination of tax on certain devices under the National Firearms Act. And then she gave some different citations, which I'm going to show you in a second because I have them pulled up. It's not sustained with respect to A3, the fee. That's really important for what we're going to walk through because coincidentally, some other guy that we know was talking about the fee immediately this morning. I mean, real quick. Coincidence? Maybe. Let me bring into what they're saying here. You see how at the top up here, and there's the, okay, updates will be coming in momentarily on that, so bear with me. All right, so here's where we're at with this. This section right up here, and I'm going to highlight this. Yeah, you guys can see that. This section D, that's one section that she said that, we messed up and we didn't do it right, so we can't have our goodies. And then the other one is this one, C, okay? That's what they're about to allude to in this text, or this post, and then I'm going to show you the actual raw documentation. Because I always bring you streets. It's all linked in the source, in the description box below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. All right, this first one. Provision is extraneous. Extraneous basically means it doesn't work here. That's fancy language for it doesn't work here. This means the Parliamentarian considers our language to be primarily policy and not primarily related to a tax. Of course, it's a tax because they call it a tax stamp. That's going to come back here in 1 second. Okay? Again, this is silly. This is wrong. The NFA is a tax. Everyone who has a pulse and 2 eyeballs knows it's a tax. Even the lefties know it's a tax. Chris Murphy knows it's a tax. Everyone knows the tax. The game of playing of, well, it's kind of policy, but it's kind of not. It was originated as a tax, it's called a tax, and it's referred to as a tax, and it's collected as a tax. Get out of my face. This is obviously a tax. It's stupid, which goes to a partisan decision. Anyway, let's keep going. Provision that is not in the jurisdiction of the committee. Now, this is really interesting because it's in the Finance Committee. You know who has control over taxes? Finance Committee. All the stuff that you're seeing, like the state and local taxes, the SALT provision that they always get, a hard on for, that's in the same committee. It's called state and local tax. NFA tax. What? It doesn't even make sense on the basic level, which points to you're kind of looking for a reason. And then you had the answer right behind. I'm going to show you the answer in a second from one of our favorite Texas rhinos. All right. The Parliamentarian thinks our language is not in the right committee. That's bullcrap, and you know it. This is wrong, as the NFA is a tax and the bills dealing with the NFA have always been referred to the Ways and Means and Finance Committees. Guys, this isn't even a good cover. This is pathetic. And I haven't even gotten to all the other responses yet. We're just talking about this first post. That's what they've told them, okay? So GOA, I know that a lot of people had a call this morning, and this is the information that was provided, okay? So now let me jump over here to the Budget Committee. So this one's at $5.99. I'm going to show you this really quickly. This is the Byrd Rule, okay? This is the actual Byrd Rule on extraneous matter and reconciliation. This is what we've been dealing with for the past 2 months, okay? Let me jump back down to where I was on page 599. Everything's linked, by the way. So do you remember this little point here where they're saying B1D and B1C? Yeah, that's right here. B, C. All right. A provision that is not in the jurisdiction of the committee with jurisdiction over said title or provision shall be considered extraneous. This woman literally just said to you and me that we can't talk about the NFA as a tax because it doesn't belong in the Finance Committee where all taxes are. This is partisan. That's C. Now let's go down here to D. And thank you for the super chat. Kami Goku, thank you for all your hard work. Thank you guys so much for being here with me. This is a team effort. D, this part right here. A provision shall be considered extraneous if it produces changes in outlays or revenues which are merely incidental to the non-budgetary components of the provision. So it's not a tax, but it creates revenue? How does it create revenue without it? You see that? See that? Okay, now watch this. Now we're going to go to something else that I was posting on my profile earlier today. This is right as the sun came up. We went 0 to 60 on this real fast as a community. This is from the Reload update. Senator John Cornyn tells the Reload Republicans are now moving forward with an attempt to eliminate the national firearms tax on silencers, short-barreled rifles, and shotguns, and AOWs. Okay, I'm going to show you the timestamp on that. That was at 7:23 this morning. We found out that the Parliamentarian was going to stick her pointy little witch shoe up our butts last night around 1 a.m. So if we found out at 1 a.m. last night, and there's already a quote in the Reload at 7:23 in the morning from John Cornyn, who already has the answer ready to go, does that... I'm going to get to a hypothetical in a second, but let me show you what he's saying here. I think it's time to get spicy, Braden. Oh, Mike, just hang on. When we get to the SCOTUS stuff, we go get spicy. This is from the actual Reload. This is the actual post they shared. That's something gun rights activists have planned as a fallback if full delisting, which would not just eliminate the tax, but also the registration requirements on the devices, was tossed out under the Byrd Rule. Now, just so you're fully aware of what we're talking about in this little post, delisting is the removal of suppressors and short barrels from the NFA. That is what we have been chasing as the crown jewel the whole time. What this article is saying is, but we had a fallback position, which was remove the fee and tax from the suppressors and the short barrels and the AWs. So the only difference in these two scenarios, according to this post, is one, you have to ask permission from the government and have a tax stamp, which somehow is extraneous and not a tax and doesn't belong to the Finance Committee. And then over here, you got to talk about, well, you can still have the same suppressor. You can have it for $0 for a tax stamp or $5 or a reduced fee for dollars, but it still has to go through the NFA tax stamp, which, by the way, somehow it's still not a tax. I mean, here's a good summation. It can't go through the reconciliation bill because it's a tax. But don't worry. It's not going to go through the Finance Committee because that's the wrong committee. But we are going to lower the tax. But even though it's not a tax, because it's not a tax, if it was a tax, we'd have to honor it. But because it's not a tax, we're going to lower the tax. What? All right, let's continue. Here we go. Senator John Cornyn, Republican of Texas, not for long, John, said Republicans are already working on that plan, noting modifications are routine. He said he is confident eliminating the NFA tax on silencers, often called suppressors since they don't completely silence the sound of gunshots, short-barreled rifles and shotguns and the any other weapon category will clear the Byrd Rule. Now we're confident. Quote, as you know, policy changes are violative of the Byrd Rule. Zeroing out taxes is our plan B. Senator Cornyn told the Reload that should work. Now, hold on a second. The Rhino John Cornyn says, as you know, policy changes are violative, but our other option where changes are being modified as we speak, it works. So somehow, from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m., you all of a sudden had a magical solution, and you knew immediately that was going to work that time once you went back and reworked it. You guys smelling anything else? Here, I'm gonna read this super chat real quick, and then I'll show you my hypothetical. Again, no one has told me what I'm about to tell you in a minute. All right, super chat from Mike Q. Thanks for all you do to keep us informed. Thank you, Mike. We could not do this without you guys, and we could not do it we cannot accomplish what we're accomplishing to separate. We can't do it if we're not together. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. So thank you guys all for supporting this. And by all means, if you are in here now for the first time, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, and follow me on X for a grand old time with a whole lot less rules. All right, then YouTube. So now let's talk about my potential hypothetical. And I would like to reinstate that no one has told me this. This is not coming from a source. This is not coming from anybody but me. This is something that I think would be interesting, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. If we had an answer ready to go 6 hours after the Parliamentarian did what she did and dragged her feet for 4 days, I know because I was sitting in this chair the whole time. So if she dragged her feet that long and then gave you a midnight to 1 a.m. ruling, and 7 a.m. you are ready with a not only solution, we think it's going to work, we were concerned it was going to be violative before. Wouldn't it make sense if you were a dirty rhino Republican who had a tendency to really enforce background checks that really seem to be unconstitutional a lot of the time when, he does all of his other things, John Cornyn, like his FFL dealer stuff? Wouldn't it be an interesting and convenient point to say, hey, maybe we put all these things into the reconciliation bill and we think it's going to be violative, so we don't really want it, but we're banking on the fact that the Parliamentarian can take the heat, but we're going to have a solution right here ready to lower the tax fee down and we can be the heroes? Just me? You? Us? No? Okay. Just a hypothetical. But if I were a slimy, smarmy politician, that would be a pretty viable option to go. All right, super chat over here. Fred Samuel, $5. So they planned on screwing the 2A community all along. I really don't think that they planned on screwing the 2A community all along. I think they planned on being politicians. I think that they were kind of giving us what we wanted to hear a little bit, giving us as much rope as we could. If it worked, but they didn't think that it could. And there was a potential of, well, when it doesn't, we can ride in and be the hero and they can still be behind the tax scheme, but we'll just lower the tax. Again, you have to understand where this potential would go. Okay, and guys, we're just freewheeling right now, so just let me know you like this or you don't like this in the comments in the chat. So here's the scenario. They are between a rock and a hard place, or a tax and an unconstitutional action, if you really want to be snarky about it. So you're going to tax the rights because that's how it was originated. In 1934, the National Firearms Act came forward as a solution to gun control without infringing on the Second Amendment through the power of taxation. We've been through it. We know it. The Supreme Court came in and reaffirmed that it is indeed a tax, which does belong in the Finance Committee and the Ways and Means Committee because that's where it was originally passed. So if you can't infringe upon the right, but you're using the power of taxation, at a certain point, when is it a tax? Because you can't take the guns and the suppressors and the short barrels and the AOWs without taxation. But on the other hand, if you don't tax us, you can't take them. So if the whole goal was to get it down to zero, like John Cornyn just said, zeroing out taxes is our plan B, well, you seem to be in a bit of a problem here in a hypothetical scenario because you've taken away the power of taxation, but you're still taking something. I mean, no? Asking for a friend? You guys tell me if that makes sense. Because it's a tax, it's not a tax, so we can't talk about it, but we're going to lower the tax so you get your gun toys. That doesn't really jive for me. That just seems like doublespeak, and they're kind of trying to hang in on the Parliamentarian. All right, super chat from Josh Case. Rules for thee, but now for we, but not for we, the politicians. Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it. I think that's a good way to say it. Um, I need to know if she's elected. Okay, Terrence, that's a good question. She's not elected. She serves at the pleasure of the Senate Majority Leader, and in this case, it's John Thune, which is going to bring into a very interesting part of this conversation as well. And all the stuff that I just showed you is linked in the description box below. I'm going to close these out, and I'm going to jump right over to the next thing that we're going to talk about. All of these things are basically circumstantial to who the Majority Leader wants to serve as the parliamentarian. It's his choice completely. So now, as I start going through my actual X feed and all the things that we're going to be talking about in a second, kind of freewheeling and looking for updates, I'm going to show you a few things that are really amping up the pressure on John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader and the Republicans, because genuinely, this bill is in a bad place and it's all on him. Speaker Johnson passed it. Speaker Johnson already came out and said something about the parliamentarian. John Thune is defending the parliamentarian. And she just gutted the entire big, beautiful bill of Trump. All the signature points. Poof, gone. Okay? You're about to see a lot of politicking against the parliamentarian, and then John Thune's going to catch a lot of the heat too. And the interesting part about this is he's a new leader. This is his legacy. If this fails, which it does not look good at the moment, he's in trouble. So that's the thought on that. Got another super chat. That's a funny one. Let me read that one. That's a great one. At this point, I'm fed up. Send JD in and go scorched earth and overrule the parliamentarian with the pointy witch shoes. So now, before I go into the next thing, thank you so much, Gibson, for the super chat. Here's where you stand on this. This is your only options, and after I tell you this, I'm going to tell you what the vibe I'm getting. You have the option of John Thune firing her. He's already said he's not going to. He may, but he said he's not going to. You have the option of overruling at a J.D. Vance level, him basically ignoring it because it's just advice. Or you have the renegotiation and lowering the tax stamp cost on the not tax stamp to, as John Cornyn said, zeroing out. Those are pretty much your three options now. And what my gut is, just because I study politics and I observe these people a lot, they're going to use the tax removal or the zeroing out of the taxes as we tried to give you your rights back, but here, have this little piece of candy. That's probably what you're going to see happen. If John Cornyn already this morning at 7:30 a.m. is coming out and saying that, yeah, it was always hard and it was going to be violative, but we had a backup plan. By the way, the backup plan will work just fine. Look, we're going to zero out taxes. Here's how we're going to do it. And we have the language ready. You can kind of see where they're going to angle on this. But it's one of those things. Yeah, see, you guys are getting it. Call and email Thune, remove Thune, all pressure on JD. Yeah, that's the entire thing. So there's a few things, actually. You guys are bringing up interesting chats. This is really important in this conversation. So one of the things, what was that one? Was anyone surprised by this? I'll hit that one. And then I'm done with the Republicrats, which is clever. So here's the thing. If you are done with the Republicrats, that's fine. I would advise you to say you're done with those individual Republicrats because you don't want to lose your seat at the table. You just want to get rid of those. That would be my big caution on that. The other thing that I'll say around the why is anyone even surprised at this? So you have to understand, and this is gonna kind of be my mindset on this, and then we'll move on to the next point. Do you guys understand where we are at right this second is a conversation around going after the NFA? That's an offensive conversation, right? The NFA is that crown jewel. That's the one that we want to just smash, right? For us to have the conversation at the table, it doesn't reflect on Republicans. What it reflects on is the ability of the population to move the culture in a way that's palatable for other politicians. And it also speaks for gun rights organizations who unified on this and then also were able to levy their support and pressure of politicians. We got it through the House and it went to the Senate. Now we're dealing with some crap. Absolutely dealing with some crap. But there's a lot more to this when you zoom out and look at the macro of what's going on. Now, I'm going to keep you updated on it as we go. But now I've got a super chat, and then I got to show you how the Supreme Court chose violence because, yeah, this was a hell of a day. All right, so this is a super chat from Learn to Shoot Guns, $5. If you pass a NICS check, then if there's not a tax to pay, then just have the dealer send in a form to the NFS. Just excuse me, just like they file multiple purchases. I honestly don't know how exactly that would work, but it does seem to have the line of logic. But again, I don't know where this is going to land. Sorry, my voice is going out for some reason. That's weird. It never goes out. All right. So now I'm going to show you all the different pieces that I came across in reaction to this today. So I'm going to go down the post that I've got. I want to show you what Eric Burleson said, because this was really, really good. And everything I'm showing you right now is completely available for free at Braden LOA on X. Make sure you get over there and follow me. We're about to break 20,000 on X, which is awesome. And thank each of you so much. All right. I'm going to play his words real quick because he goes after the Parliamentarian. This is what you're going to start to see a lot of. He goes pretty hard. And honestly, I think he could go harder. But check this out. Let me know what you think in the chat in the comments, and I will make sure that this is working.
This is what sometimes squishy leadership can do. They can use the Senate Parliamentarian as a foil. Let's say, for example, the gun legislation, which is what I fought for in the House, to eliminate the registration and tax stamps on suppressors, short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns, is thrown out by the Senate Parliamentarian. The president of the Senate, they can make sure that that language is not accurate, so she does throw it out. They can also choose not to try to fight the Parliamentarian or try to retweak the language to get it through. This is something that everyone needs to be mindful of, is that, look, the Democrats passed massive sweeping reform like Obamacare and the Green New Deal, right, the IRA, all through reconciliation. And for this Parliamentarian to say that you could pass those things, but you can't cut them in reconciliation is ridiculous. And it's something that we need to be, screaming from the rooftops. If it comes back with all this stuff ripped out of it, there is no way that I'm voting for this. This is what...
All right. So, sorry, my computer didn't do something right, so I had to put you on this mic. This right here is available on my X at Braden LOA. Get that, send that out everywhere. That is a sitting representative, and that kind of speaks to what I was telling you guys about. This bill is now in a different place, right? You've got multiple reps. I showed you yesterday in our live when we were just kind of going through updates. You've got MTG, you got Chip Roy, you've got Greg Stube. All of them are saying, we're not doing this. This is not happening. It passed by one vote. So the Senate Parliamentarian, and this is where all of this comes together. This is why we zoom out and look at the whole picture when we do this, because this is how we win in the 2A space. When you zoom out and you look at what the Parliamentarian has done, she pretty much gutted the entire One Big Beautiful Bill, which made her look partisan. Because when you're basically destroying everything with the exception of an AI provision, well, then you're telling me nothing's tax related? Okay, so you're just going to kill everything and gut the entire bill. And you were appointed by Harry Reid? It's not a good look. And what's going to start to happen is the pressure is going to build on John Thune, and the pressure is going to build on the system, and the pressure is going to build and build and build. Eventually, Trump is going to get involved, because I'm not sure if you guys know, but Trump has a little bit of an ego, and his name is all over this. And so if he's starting to experience pain and suffering from this, that's not going to be a fun call for John Thune, because we all know how that's going to go. But it's available for free. Send this out everywhere. And if you guys are new, and it's awesome, 2,200 people in here. Thank you so much, guys. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. All right, let's get into this. I've got a few more things before I go to SCOTUS. I want to show you some really awesome stuff. This is actually a really good post as well. Again, we're still in the realm of the Parliamentarian. So this is one of the guys from NAGR. Again, all the stuff's available on my X. When they want to bypass the Parliamentarian, they will. When they don't, they won't. The only way to make them want to gut the NFA is with enough grassroots. And that's a little snippet from Politico. Recently, Thune took pains to arrange a Senate vote overruling an EPA decision on California emission standards in such a way that McDonough would not be directly overruled. I'm smelling something, guys, and I don't like what I'm smelling, because it's foul and corrupt. But anyway, leaving that there for you. I got another super chat over here. Walrus Hunter. What happens if the House refuses to vote on it again without HPA in short? Can the House just add it back in? Does it go back to the Senate a second time? Excellent question. You get a heart. So the way that this works is the House passes something, it goes to the Senate. The Senate makes changes, and then it goes back to the House for conference vote. Basically, the House has to okay whatever the Senate made. So the House built it, the Senate refines it, the House okays the refinements. If there's changes in the House, it's got to go back to the Senate, and vice versa. And it literally keeps going until they both sign off on the exact same bill. That's how this works. So that's why this is so important, is because the things that you're seeing in the House are not going to translate to the bill passing the House because it passed by one vote. They don't have any extra room. And the Senate is screwing the pooch with the Parliamentarian. So this whole thing is all tied together in a very twisted knot of gross. All right, I got another super chat here. If it isn't a tax, the regulation scheme is an infringement on a right without historical analog in the founding era and impermissible burdens the right. Abso-freaking-lutely. You get a heart, Marlberg. That's exactly right, guys. So where we're going on this, and that's a great addition to that conversation. If we're in a point now where it's magically not a tax for the conversation of the Parliamentarian, but then they zero out the tax, as John Cornyn just said, you now don't have the power of taxation to do any type of NFA enforcement. So how are you taking our guns? Uh-oh. Right? It becomes, like I said earlier in this stream, they're caught between a tax and an infringement, and they're really uncomfortable. Just saying. Let me know what you guys think in the chat, in the chat in the comment field below. All right, let's get back to this. There's some other things that I want to show you, and then I'm going to show you how the Supreme Court chose violence today, because they just woke up and decided to just make Lefty's head pop. All right, let's keep on going. There's one or two things that I want to do before I go into the SCOTUS stuff, because the SCOTUS stuff is important, and then I'll do fresh updates. Yeah, and here's another one. Representative Eli Crane. Republicans control the House and the Senate. Why are Senate Republicans allowing themselves to be bossed around by a Democrat-appointed bureaucrat? We shouldn't be handed anything, let alone setbacks. We should be delivering. You should be delivering. You don't have a history of delivering. We're really trying to drag you over the finish line, but you guys just couldn't do it. But in all fairness, I'm being salty, but it's not a completely done process. We're going to see where this lands. I have a lot of conversations that I've had that are tending to go towards that tax reduction. That's where it looks like it's going. I'm not happy about that, but just objectively, that's where it looks like it's going right now, from conversations, from observations, and just kind of the lay of the land. This is a very good way to say that. Anyway, let's get out of here. That just kind of goes back to reinforce the point of the House has the ability to screw this after the Senate screwed it. That's a fun one. Doge going into ATF. I'm going to talk about that in another video probably later tonight. Yeah, this is the last one I want to do on this topic for a minute until we get more updates. This is something you can tell all your friends and you can pass around as well. Again, all of it's available at Braden LOA. So let's get this straight. The state and local taxes is fine because it's taxes. And that makes sense that it would be in the Finance Committee, right? But the NFA for suppressors and short barrels, which is literally called a tax stamp, it's not okay to be in the Finance Committee. Do you see how she set herself up for failure there? Because now she's going to pass out state and local taxes eventually with some agreement and negotiation, and she's not going to do the NFA stuff. Well, they're both taxes. It's irrefutable. You see the problem that gets presented? All right. Let me get into the SCOTUS stuff, because I swear to you, today they woke up and they decided to just freaking go ham. Oh yeah, and the Senate vote today got canceled too. Let's see. All right, here we go. Let's just start here. So this one right here, I'm not sure if you guys are watching SCOTUS as well, because I've said it a few times, I think it's a funny phrase, they woke up and decided to choose violence. They've released 4 different rulings, all of which are against the left. ACB comes out directly against Ketanji Brown Jackson. Personal insults abound, and overall, not a good day if you're a lefty. I'll be real with you. Check this out. Breaking, in a 6-3 ruling, the Supreme Court has effectively nuked the universal injunctions used by rogue district court judges. The opinion was written by Amy Coney Barrett, Sotomayor, Jackson, and Kagan dissented. That's not a surprise. Okay, here's why this is so important for us. We use injunctions a lot in the gun space and the 2A space to go after infringements, right? This is specifically talking about the national infringements or the universal injunctions, the universal injunctions where they say, hey, we're going to deport this person, and then a judge says, turn the plane around, right? Lots of these things have been in the past. That's what prompted this. So effectively, those judges can't do that anymore. Like district court judges can't block an entire president policy. That's what they're saying. Now, let's back this out and extrapolate this out onto the 2A space for a second. We use injunctions frequently because they infringe on us frequently. That's what we do. We're the ones that just get punched in the head all the time. See, I'm spicy. If you're looking at the injunctions that they put out on the 2A side, they're always, or most of the time, they're limited in scope, right? So this is different than what they're doing here. In one scenario, they've got these judges that are issuing presidential adjusting injunctions, which basically says you can't do that policy. In our case, what they typically do is they say, hey, NAGR or GOA, we're going to give you this injunction for pistol braces because your members are actually being affected in a negative manner, so we're going to put this injunction out for GOA. And then GOA goes, sweet. All the other groups go, hey, can we have that too? And then what's happened in the past, only 2 occasions that I can remember, the judge says, you know what, we're just going to do this nationally. It's very rare for it to happen for us. So is that an option on the table anymore? Nope, 0, not happening. So what will go forward in the 2A space, and this is going to directly benefit 2A organizations, in my opinion. You guys can let me know what you think in the chat in the comments. It's going to directly affect them from a standpoint of who has the biggest membership, who has the most effective lawyers, who gets the most injunctions, and who gets protected from the infringements. That's what's going to happen. So from all of the bigger groups, if you're talking about a GOA pistol brace scenario, well, GOA, all the members were protected. Well, whoever gets that injunction, all their members are protected. So then it's literally like, it's like that old meme of like people running directly to the Starbucks across the street and whichever one's the most effective, right, at the time. So that's kind of what you're talking about because there won't be any more national injunctions. So that's a big one. Super chat from Pork Chop. $5. What is GOA saying with this latest news? I'll be candid with you because I'm personal friends with them. They are pissed, and they should be. Quite honestly, I mean, I'm quite irritated myself. But I'm not going to go through the entire thing again. But basically, they're putting out content that's saying, here's what they cited, here's how it's bullcrap, here's where they're wrong. We need to fire the parliamentarian. That's what they've effectively said. GOA did not say that from their account. Eric Pratt, the SVP of GOA, did, but that the angle is they're pissed because she's wrong. So that's the idea. I'm a member of all of Gajuki. I'm a member of all of them except NRA. That's hilarious. So you could just get coverall. I love that. All right, so now we get to have some fun. This one is where we get to have some fun, people, because this is where the violence starts. Of course, YouTube, hypothetical violence. This is not real. This is a political show. We're talking about freedoms, not violence. So basically, what the verbiage was, the decision is 6-3 because universal injunctions likely exceeded the equitable authority that Congress has granted to federal courts. Basically, you can't do this anymore, okay? But here's where we start to have some fun. I posted this again. Everything is available on my X profile at Braden LOA. You all need to smile, or if you all need to smile, enjoy Amy Coney Barrett savaging Ketanji Brown Jackson. Share for the effect. Listen to this. God, this is one of the most savage things I've ever seen SCOTUS do to themselves. Holy smoke, says Eric Dowry. Justice Amy Coney Barrett with a scorcher against Ketanji Brown Jackson in today's ruling against nationwide injunctions. Quote, we observe only this, talking about all the SCOTUSes, or all the justices except the dissenting. Okay, so there's like 5 of them or 6 of them. Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary. Shots fired. I swear to you, ACB hasn't really said much, but I think she's like been storing all this up for like 2 years because there's even more. I'm going to go with this one. a little bit more. As you can see here, our favorite person, Davies, back with the original. He's been set back to factory settings. F the Supreme Court. F the Federalist. F Mitch McConnell. Okay. And we're back. But this next one, though, people, if you are not ready to smile, I'm not going to read this to you because I think you are. This is the second thing that ACB said against KBJ. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, my goodness. Justice Amy Coney Barrett basically implied Ketanji Jackson is too dumb or unwilling to read legalese, literally her job description. She is the most unqualified justice in the Supreme Court history. Oh, look at this. This is what ACB wrote about her fellow justice. Okay? Justice Jackson skips over that part because analyzing the governing statute involves boring legalese. All right, well, better late than never, I guess. But yeah, that's just the first ruling they came out with. Okay, so that was a fun one. Super chat from Gajuki. GOA should push to remove John Thune from leadership. We need Ted Cruz as Senate president. I have no idea if they're going to do that. I do know they're going to go against. I can read their post from the Parliamentarian angle. They're not happy about that. That's just the same thing. Again, we're not even to the constant updates that we're going to do together here in a second, guys. I think that's the main thing. Oh, yeah. Chip Roy releases they ended birthright citizenship today. That was a big one. And I did personally issue an APB to be on the lookout. For a rash of videos of liberals screaming at their phones in their cars today, SCOTUS may be actively trying to induce mental breaks. Because we've gone down the nationwide injunctions, which was the last thing the left was being able to use against Trump and the administration. We've gotten rid of birthright citizenship, and now you're going after some passwords for corn. And then there was one more, which I'll get to in a second. All right, now let's see what's happening on my notifications. GOA puts out a content. It's GOA. Oh, he retweeted. Okay, cool. Look at Jared. Look at all of us. Yeah, they're doing the same stuff. Okay. Betrayal. All right, just going through here real quick. And this is actually a good one. Guys, this is what's happening across the board. People are calling leader John Thune. They're letting him know they must fire the parliamentarian and keep the HP and short intact. I support everyone else do the same. So this is that activism that we're talking about. And look at that, guys. 16 of you have followed since we started with 13 seconds ago. Thank you so much for doing that, guys. At Braden LOA on X. It's an amazing platform. Make sure you hit this like button, the subscribe channel here, and notification bell, because we are pushing for freedom. And that is what we do on this channel. But now, let's go out into the wild and discover what is waiting for us, because there's a lot of stuff here that is really, let's see, there's another one. All right, this is one that I wanted to hit right here from Charlie Kirk. An actual quote from a SCOTUS expert who understands the court well. This is an unbelievable bloodbath for KBJ, that's Ketanji Brown Jackson. It's really a huge problem for the court to have one of 9 members essentially intellectually disabled from even adequately faking the ability to perform the job. Joe Biden explicitly picked KBJ for reasons of situations rather than merit. Obviously, I'm on YouTube. I can't read everything. Now he has seriously injured the highest court in the land, but his own cause most of all. What an embarrassment. Super chat from Mitchell Martell. And thank you guys for the super chats. You guys are being extremely generous. I appreciate y'all. In theory, with zeroing out the tax, could it not be taken to court and argued that it is now an overstepping power due to no tax levied? I believe that's exactly what's going to happen. Very astute. I swear, my viewers are, you guys are more informed than most people running the country. I swear, you guys know more about this stuff than almost anybody. Great job, everyone. Oh yeah, there's an image of what you have to have 18-year-old confirmation now. That's another one. Super chat from 357 Magnum Dude. What is in all truth the likelihood of getting rid of the parliamentarian? Honestly, I do not know what's happening behind the scenes. That's a great question. In my opinion, I think it is time to do that. But you've got John Thune publicly saying that he's not going to get rid of the parliamentarian. You've got some senators saying get rid of him. You got tons of House members saying get rid of him. And then you got some other senators saying don't get rid of him. I mean, literally, I don't know what's going to happen. I think the pivotal decision point is when Trump gets it on the phone. I think that's when it happens. if it's going to happen, that's going to be the catalyst. That's my personal opinion. But you guys can let me know what you think in the chat right down there. Let's do these 105 posts here. Yeah, so as you can see here, guys, all the gun rights organizations, they're all coming out hard against the Byrd rule interpretation. Reject it. That is the big thing. This is kind of one of those pivotal points. I personally think that the Senate has already decided where they're going to go with it, and I think it's the John Cornyn magic approach that we already had ready. But that we aren't giving up. Like, the gun rights activists are literally out there saying fire the parliamentarian and ignore her completely. And again, if you're just now tuning in, J.D. Vance can ignore her completely, John Thune can fire her, or they renegotiate down the tax to zero, as John Cornyn says. It is those three scenarios. Because I do not accept nothing. Nothing is not an acceptable option. But anyway, that's that. Yep, see, same thing. It's time for VP and leader John Thune to prove they have a backbone and override this garbage. It's the same thing. We're all going to be grinding on that. Oh, let's see. Policies, nationwide injunctions, proceed. Okay, that part doesn't really matter to me. Actually, no, hold on. That does. Hold on a second. This part right here, freezing unnecessary federal funding, that's an important one because that's where the spending problem is. So if he can do that, I'm down with that. That's a good thing. Yeah. So one of the things that I love, and guys, tell me if you notice this too in the chat, in the comments, and we're just going to do this kind of off the cuff. I love that every time that there's some sort of thing that happens, the Democrats all come out immediately in lockstep. It's almost like that one account is shared, or one person runs all their accounts because the hive mind is so similar. This clearly seems to be the way they're going. Has the Supreme Court decided to change the culture and character of America? No, that was y'all. Those open border policies. The Congress must thoroughly examine this decision by the Supreme Court and find ways to legislate and protect the constitutional right to citizenship for all those born in America. So the whole point of that is they're trying to go from the angle of if you're natural born, then that's a problem. What it's clearly angling towards is the case itself. I'm not an expert in that case, so I'm not going to reference, but that's one of the reasons they're going to focus on. This is an interesting thought as well, going back to the suppressor HPA thing. If this is the case and the GOP is totally unwilling to remove the parliamentarian, then at a minimum, they should also amend this to preempt state suppressor and SBR bans as interfering with federal revenue. Set the tax at $5 or something. Yeah, you probably could. But again, this kind of goes back to that gray area. Is it a tax? Is it not a tax? Can it go through the reconciliation? Can it not go through the reconciliation? Do you just want to do something because you want to do it and find a stupid reason? Yeah, it's probably that. I honestly don't know what they're going to do, but that's referencing the exact same stuff. And guys, if you're enjoying this content, make sure you let me know over here in the chat just so I can kind of keep on going through. And I'm trying to get chats as well, as I'm just doing like 8 things at the same time. Jeez. Okay, I'm not going to do that. All right, so I'm just going to kind of keep on scrolling through here, and there's a few things that I want to hit, but Gavin Newsom sued Fox for $800 million. Why not? Because, sounds good. See, right here. This is why I do this, right here. Look at this. Representative Keith Self, he's one of the guys in Congress who has openly said parliamentarians suck. The Supreme Court is blocking rogue judges. Now we need the Senate to stop rogue parliamentarians. See, guys, like, this is the angle. Unelected bureaucrat, unconstitutional position, non-elected, rogue parliamentarian. This is that angle. This is that angle of what we're doing. Yeah, so Austin Lewis, the tax isn't the big deal to me. It's the registry and the extra BS. Right, that's the whole point. We're all in that position. That's not just you. The problem is you're making me register for something that's a right. I have to pay a tax for a right. I have to do extra fingerprinting for a right. I have to have permission to go out of state for a right. Like, that's not rights. Those are permissions. I don't want permissions. Anyway, we're in the same. Let's keep on going. Actually, I want to go up here because there's some other stuff that I want to see if there's updates on. Oh, look at that. Look at that. There's more freaking out. All right. Okay. Again, I'm just getting these pieces coming in. Super chat from Gunning Designs, buddy. I hope you are doing well. That is one of my oldest friends. Hope you're doing well, man. Noodle arms. Okay. All right, that stuff. We can just go to the top here. I'm going to jump over to my notifications in a second, and then we are going to see what else is happening. Showed you the Burleson thing. These are all just notifications that you guys are sending and you're following over there on my X profile at Braden LOA. So thank you guys for doing that. What? Some of the things you guys send me, I have question marks. Yep, there you go. 19 more follow, guys. Thank you so much. We're about to do something and launch something that you guys are going to love. So thank you for following, so I can tell you about it when the time is right very soon. Okay, that stuff is just normal notifications. I'm going to do this brush real quick. See there? This guy's far lefty. The conservatives in the Supreme Court are an absolute disgrace. They are fully owned by Trump. And there's GOA Pennsylvania. Pick up and call Leader John Thune. You can see the vibe from NAGR, from GOA. Call Thune, fire Parliamentarian, put pressure on Thune. That's the whole thing. All right. It looks like, yeah, USDCA just said it. Senate Parliamentarian removed pro stuff. That's just an informational post. All right, it looks like that's about all we're going to talk about from a standpoint of what's happening, unless something broke right here. Trump calls for a special prosecutor to investigate the 2020 election. That is so not something I'm touching. Yep, and that's about it. All right, let me get into this real quick. So, guys, bottom line, let me just do a wrap up real quick for you guys. Bottom line here is the SCOTUS today woke up and chose violence. ACB had a lot of pent up anger that she just unleashed on Ketanji Brown Jackson, which was hilarious and accurate. And then on the other side, the parliamentarians screwed us, and it seems like the Republican rhinos had a solution ready for the screwing. And the offerings that were given to us were a bunch of crap. So where we are landing on the HPA and the suppressors in the HPA and the short, it looks, I have not been told this, I want to be very clear on that. It looks like this is angling towards the zeroing out of the taxes on the HPA and on shorts and on AOWs and SPRs. It looks like that. I cannot tell you that's the case. I'm getting other hints and indications that are kind of angling that direction, but my biggest thought is John Cornyn was ready for it, and they're saying that it's perfectly fine the way we're going to do it this way, and it's already moving and maneuvering. That seems like what they're going to do. It's like kissing your sister or a wet blanket. I don't know which one's worse, but it seems like that's the point that we're at with that. Of course, the SCOTUS thing was fun to watch. It was like 2022 all over again when they dropped the Bruin decision and they were freaking out, and then the left got the Dobbs decision and the entire world melted. It's been quite a day. But guys, let me know what you think of these live streams where I just kind of go through and we just basically have an hour together. And I look forward to your comments. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, and follow me at Braden LOA on X for the next evolution of freedom that we are going to be distributing with a lot less filters. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Braden. Later.